Hello, welcome to the live stream. The cat just is attempting to knock down the lights while getting sparkly balls, so that's where we're at. I'm so excited about this live stream, and I'm extremely worried that we're not going to get to everything I want to talk about today, because last week I talked about the stimulus payments in the bill that officially passed this week in the US, but I started writing notes on all the other things crammed into this stimulus bill, and I felt I could just give myself notes to fit one piece of paper, and I ended up with this many pieces of paper, and it is not in any way all of the stuff to talk about. So there is just a lot to pack in. I think a lot of people, myself included, I dug through, I was looking through the bill, reading documentation, reading industry reports on how this is going to affect different industries, and I still don't know all the things in it. That being said, I hope to have you walk away with knowledge of the stuff that affects you specifically, individual folks. This is the donut for today, which is a very exciting donut. It is a 3-leaf clover donut. It is filled with coffee cream, and the glaze is Jameson whiskey, and it has little gold flakes on it. So it's obviously themed for St. Patrick's Day. Also, the alcohol has not been cooked out of the glaze, and I haven't drunk alcohol in a bunch of years, so hopefully I don't get accidentally drunk off a donut, which would be kind of hilarious. But yeah, I'm very excited about that. How is everyone? Are folks excited to learn about the absolutely metric ton of stuff in this package? Because there was a lot. There's a lot more than $1,400 checks going out. So it seems delicious. I'm very excited about it. I did not realize that they had started these already when I went in this morning, and I saw them and I was like, okay, I'm going to get those, because the one I had planned on getting was the savory pierogi donut, which I'm genuinely not really looking forward to eating. I'm looking forward to the content it will provide, but I do not expect to be excited about it. So I was definitely like, oh, I don't know. Oh, Latitude owns this dress. That's exciting. I like it because it has pockets, but it is kind of an unreasonably low-cut neckline for me. I also have a blazer that is from a totally different company and has the exact same fabric. So I have a matching blazer accidentally for this dress. Rihanna says, oh yeah, you picked the better donut. Well, the pierogi I thought would be kind of thematic for this week, but I've decided, we found a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I mean, St. Patrick's Day is actually about converting people on an island, which is less cool, but we're going to focus on the fictional parts, which involve leprechauns and pots of gold. And that is what this stimulus bill is. It is a giant pot of gold. Latitude says it was on Retrolicious' Black Friday sale. I think I definitely got this at a sale. I think I got it for $15 or whatever. And I don't regret it. I'd wanted to get it for a while, and when it went up on sale, I was like, hey, US made brand with pockets, I will get that. I wonder why my icon always shows up weird lately, like inverted colors. I don't know what's up with that. Oh, yeah. I think that's actually a question for the person running the live stream. So, are you running it on the fun new one? Okay. So this is now being run on the new ATEM Mini Pro? ATEM Mini Pro Extreme, which is the very new, very exciting ATEM Mini, which if you would like to know more about it, you can go to Aaron PK's channel, which just crossed 20K subscribers, and learn about how to run it. I'm very excited for Aaron, even though I am not the target audience for his channel. So Okay, I'm just going to dive in. Unless anybody wants to talk about anything else. It seems like we only have 3 people here anyway, so at least we have 3 people on the chat. I don't care. I'm excited. Okay, let's talk about what is in this. So first up, we have the stimulus payments. Go and watch last week's stream if you want to know more about those. The thing to know is that most people are going to get $1,400 under it. But there is a bunch of other things. In it. So a big one that a lot of people have heard about, but maybe don't know the details on because the details aren't super worked out yet, is the child tax payments. So currently we have a $2,000 child tax credit that you can get in the United States for having a child. And what this bill did is expanded the child tax credit just for this year. So instead of being $2,000, it is $3,000 per child. And for children under the age of 6, it is $3,600. The big thing here is that they are making it so that it is a fully refundable credit. So previously, the child tax credit in the United States did not go to the lowest income people because they would not have tax liability after all of the other credits and the standard deduction. And so they wouldn't get that money back. So it was not going to low income families. Now, what they have done is they've said that, hey, this is actually a refundable tax credit. So that means it is going to go to everyone below the income threshold, which is roughly $150,000 for a 2-adult family. It varies based on household income. And then the other thing they tried to do is they tried to implement this as essentially something close to a universal basic income. That's maybe a pie in the sky way to describe it because it's only for 6 months. It's clearly meant to be kind of a trial. This whole bill is, I would say, the great American experiment in actually having a welfare state. And I think the frustrating thing is the way America's politics are right now. It's hard to do policies with granularity. And so Democrats packed in a bunch of stuff and went for everything they could possibly get. And what ended up happening is, obviously compromises were made. There's stuff in here that the progressives in the party would have preferred not be in here. And there's stuff in here. There's stuff that's not in this bill that progressives would have preferred. That being said, it is really an omnibus bill. It is the largest bill in the history of the United States as far as dollar amount. And they crammed a lot of experiments in here. So the big experiment is that they are trying to model this kind of roughly off what Canada does already and some other countries, which is in addition to being larger and refundable, it also, hopefully, you'll be able to get it from July through December of this year. You'll actually be able to claim it on a monthly basis. The bill says that it has to be ready by July. However, there is not a system set up for this right now. We are not Canada. Do not normally get people money on a monthly basis. Normally, we do it all at tax time through the IRS when we do any kind of wealth transfers. And so this is going to be set up. They're going to have some kind of portal set up. They put this on the IRS's lap to be able to work the finer details out about it. So half of the amount you will be able to get on a monthly basis through the end of this year, and then you can reclaim the other half at tax time next year. So for most people that have one child below, let's say the age of 6. So if you have a 4-year-old, you would be getting $300 a month as a direct monthly payment from July through December of this year, and then you would get the balance at tax time next year. So this is $3,000. It's up from $2,000 to $3,000 for children between 6 and 17 years old, and then for any child born this year. So if you are currently expecting, you will also get it at the time that you will also get it if the baby is born in 2020, which, unless it's really baking in there for a long time, if you're expecting right now, you will have a child during the year of 2021. Sorry, I don't know what year it is anymore. And up to 6 years old, from 0 to 6 years old, you get $3,600. And this is per child. So if you have 4 children, you would be looking at quite a lot of money. So this is this is expected to significantly reduce childhood poverty. For being the richest nation in the world, we have a very persistent and high rate of childhood poverty. And this alone has the largest effect on childhood poverty. And it is a lower amount overall than the Canadian child tax payment. It has a different name. I'm sorry, I can't remember it. It is a lower amount than the maximum amount, but more people will get more dollars, essentially. It's very much going to target and go to lower and middle income people, and it's going to make the largest difference in lower income folks. And that is important for the overall economy. We will get back to that because there is a lot of very interesting experimental things happening in this bill around the overall economy and what it looks like to get low income people money. So if you have a kid and you co-parent with someone that you do not file taxes with, there are a lot of people that will switch back and forth with who takes the kid as a dependent year to year. It kind of depends on your individual financial relationships. They have not worked out the final details on that yet and what it is going to look like. So you will have to figure that out. Okay, are there questions about the child tax credit here? Latitude says that their midterm is on sequel, which is pronounced squirrel. Latitude says, wait, I lost my job in July. Do I qualify for unemployment? I was making $60 a month. That unfortunately depends on your state and whether or not you qualify, and how you lost your job. So if you lost your job due to COVID reasons, then you would likely qualify for unemployment. It would be based on the last year's quarters of wages. It kind of depends on your state, but generally it would. So you may be too late to file if you hadn't filed, although they've changed a lot of things around. So yeah, if you have questions about filing for unemployment, the place I recommend starting is with your state's unemployment website. It is run through the states, even including for pandemic unemployment assistance. And we'll get to some of the things that they did with pandemic unemployment assistance because it's pretty dope. Okay. Any questions about the child tax credit? Because it is definitely very fascinating. I don't know if everybody's having good weather because we have very few people here on this live stream today, at least in chat. And I suspect it's because everybody's out in the nice weather. All right. So, healthcare. There is a lot of important things. There is a lot of important things to understand about what is going on with healthcare. So, we did not get universal healthcare, but we got one step closer to it for this year alone. So, you can get, if you lost a job and you are qualified under COBRA. So, if you lose your job, you're laid off, fired, separate from your job, and they were paying for your health insurance, you are always offered the option of COBRA. COBRA is usually pretty expensive because you're paying both what you were paying as an employee, but also what the employer is paying, plus an extra percentage on top as an administrative fee. That's why once the ACA came out, most people would end up enrolling in an ACA plan. However, the great part about COBRA under this plan is that between April and September 30th, your COBRA plan will be 100% paid for. So if you lose your job between April and September 30th of this year, you can stay enrolled in COBRA, including for your family premium, which the average family premium for COBRA is $2,000 a month, which means a ton of people do not get COBRA and go uninsured. So you will have 100% covered. It's done through the employer, so you don't have to apply for anything special. But if you are losing your job in the next couple weeks or in the next 6 months after that, and you are given the option for COBRA, it can make a lot of sense to take COBRA. Next thing is the ACA subsidy. This is a huge one. If you are enrolled in a healthcare.gov plan or through your state's exchange, the ACA subsidy has been increased. They did a bunch of stuff with the ACA subsidy. So there are approximately, like, estimates are that there are 1.3 million people that will now be covered and will be able to get free or extremely low cost health insurance due to this. So if you make up to 150% of poverty level and you qualify for an ACA marketplace plan, 100% of your premium will now be covered. So that will be done automatically, and it is retroactive through the beginning of this year, 2021. And that will go for the entire year. That will be done through the health insurance company. So if you are already enrolled in an ACA plan, it will automatically happen for you. However, you have the option to switch to another plan. So perhaps you might want to switch to a plan that costs more, but has a lower deductible, because the deductible you will still be paying yourself. So a lot of people will probably end up switching to more pricey plans. Second thing that they did is that if you make up to 400% of the poverty level, so for a single person, that's about $51,500 a year. For a family of 5, that's, I believe, $122,000. So it's a much broader range. You now are going to be eligible for those cost sharing subsidies that people that were previously up to 150% getting. For the average person, this is going to lower their premiums by, I think, what are the estimates? Roughly by about 15% for most people. And now anyone on an ACA plan at all, regardless of the income level, there is no phase out whatsoever, will not pay more than 8.5% of their income. So this is a huge deal. Previously, it was that no one could pay more than 9.3% of their income. Now that is lowered to 8.5% of your income. So has a huge effect. Latitude is like, I'm not a child in poverty, so I don't qualify for any of that. Nor am I producing a child. Okay, fair. About the ACA credit, I get like $15 a month in subsidy. Is there a chance I could qualify for a larger subsidy and get some sort of refund when we file 2021 taxes? So you will get a refund, but it probably won't happen for your 2021 taxes. You're actually going to be getting a refund as part of your premium. It is going to be worked out by the health insurance companies. So you will actually get a notification. Is that 51,500 gross or AGI? It is adjusted gross income. It's modified adjusted gross income. Sorry, it's MAGI, not AGI. This is a huge deal. So this is probably the largest thing. Latitude says, oh, I need to have earned $3,744 to qualify for unemployment. Yeah, that is one of the unfortunate things generally, is that there's a lot of gaps in the unemployment system. That being said, some of the stuff that they have on their website might be different right now because of pandemic unemployment assistance. So if you think there's a remote possibility you might qualify, it might actually be worth applying just to see, because there has been so many changes to UI, which is why I've done like 10 live streams about it, because there's just been so much, and it's administered by the states. So you might not qualify for state unemployment insurance, but you may qualify for the federal pandemic unemployment assistance, lost wage income. The thing is, which means that you might actually get more per month than you were making before because you'll qualify for that extra $300 a month. Perfect lead in to unemployment insurance. Unemployment insurance, they extended the extra $300 a week till September 1st. It was expiring this week. So now the extra $300 a week is going to go through through September of this year. This was an expected thing, but the big unexpected thing that happens with this is that the first $10,200 of unemployment assistance is now tax-free. So if you already filed for 2020 and you received unemployment insurance money last year, which most people did not have taxes withheld from unemployment insurance, and that's been a huge problem because the system isn't set up for people to be claiming for as long, and it's very antiquated. So a lot of people did not have taxes withheld from their unemployment insurance. Now the first $10,200 of unemployment income is tax-free. So if you already filed for 2020, you're going to need to amend your return because you are going to possibly get money back, or at the very least, you're going to owe less. Okay. So, are we starting to understand just how much money is included in this package? This is a $1.7 trillion package. This means that we've had $6 trillion of stimulus overall between the three packages, which is unprecedented. And this is the great American experiment. So, what things do we have? We have the free COBRA paid for by the government via your employer. We have these child payments that are going to last through the end of the year that are tax credits, but are going to be given out on a monthly basis. This is going to slice childhood poverty. The childhood poverty rate in the United States is going to drastically drop. Then we also have the Aca Subsidies, which is going to affect a lot more people than people living in poverty, just like the child tax payments. The Aca Subsidy changes are going to have a significant effect for a lot of people that are in healthcare.gov. The other thing, the child tax payments being on a monthly basis is a huge deal. There's more though. There is even more dollars happening in here. So the SNAP was increased last year because, as we all know, the price of groceries has significantly increased. So SNAP, which is a Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or food stamps, had a 15% increase last year. It was set to expire now. Across the board, whatever you qualified for in SNAP based on previous amounts, the 15% is now extended and it goes through September 30th. So a lot of the stuff is going through the fall. No student loan forgiveness, that had been bandied about. That was a thing that Biden campaigned on. And then the amount was changing. They just could not get the student loan cancellation in this package, largely, I think, because of the way that they ended up having to do this through a budget reconciliation process. However, they put in one, as AOC described it, an Easter egg in there, which is that they said, and they included in this bill, the law passed, said that if cancellation did occur in the future, it would be not taxed, which is a huge deal. If you are someone who has gotten student loans canceled before through a number of government programs, there are many government programs that pay your student loans or cancel a portion of your student loans that you then have to pay taxes on. Like, for example, if you are on income-based repayment and they get forgiven after 20 years on IBR, that amount that they forgave is taxable. And guess what they did? It is no longer taxable. They didn't cancel it. There was no universal $50,000 or $10,000 of student loan debt canceled, but they put it in Easter egg. So what I will say is, if you are someone who wants to push for this and has the energy to do organizing, now is the time to be doing organizing around student loan cancellation, simply because we already have this in here, this tax bit. This shows that there is an appetite to have this discussion. I don't like children. May I have a credit for that? No. Guthrie says, hey, Lillian, not able to make the full stream, but I wanted to pop in and say thank you for doing the live stream each week. That's so sweet, Guthrie. Thank you for stopping by. We're going to have a Clover donut. I also know that you're located in a city currently getting sun, so I do not begrudge you not staying for the entire live stream. Colorado's getting snow this weekend, so I don't really understand what's going on. Okay, SNAP benefits. UI extended. A lot of people have asked about the stimulus dollars. Adult dependents are qualified in this round, so they lowered slightly the phase out, like the total amount, but adult dependents are going to get it. So this is people with disabilities that are claimed as a dependent on someone else's taxes, perhaps adult parents that are being cared for by their adult children, adult parents, older parents that are being cared for by their adult children that are claimed as a dependent, and college students. Those folks are going to qualify for the stimulus dollars, and it will go through whoever the taxpayer was. So if the taxpayer is their parent or their child, then it will go through there. But legally, that money is yours. So, latitude. And want to do something at 8 p.m. on a Saturday? No, I have an economics talk. Great. I love that this is coming to economics class for everyone. We're really going to get into what this is going to do to the U.S. economy. So, all right. I'm still not done. You all. I'm moving through all of these notes I wrote. There's so much stuff in this bill. Okay. Other thing. Funeral expenses will be paid for anybody who died from COVID-19. So if COVID-19 is listed on the death certificate as cause of death or contributing cause of death, and then per person, up to $7,000 of funeral expenses will be paid by FEMA. They are still setting up the portal. They will get it up in the next couple months. But this is for any death that occurred from January 20th last year through the end of this year. Funeral expenses will be paid up to $7,000. This is an extremely important big deal because, as we know, lower income families have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19 deaths, and $7,000 to $10,000 for a funeral or a cremation is a huge burden to bear for families. Not to mention the costs have gone up because the demand is so high right now, and a lot of bodies have had to be stored. If you are interested on what the effect on the funeral industry has been from COVID-19, I highly recommend the channel Ask a Mortician. She owns a funeral parlor and crematorium, and she has talked about in LA, and she has talked about pretty extensively what the supply, like what the bottlenecks are for them right now. The amount that has been going on in the death care industry, funerals, cremation, last responders, we have excess deaths, right? This is not the normal number of people that die in a pandemic. So, one per death, you will have to file through FEMA. So this is one of the few things that is not happening as a tax credit in this bill. It is through the Federal Emergency Management Assistance, the same thing that theoretically helps people after hurricanes and tornadoes and other natural disasters. FEMA will pay for funeral expenses for people that died from COVID-19. So it's one per person. They did not define who can claim it. It's someone that is close enough to be able to have the death certificate for the person. They didn't say that it had to be, blood-related family, but there can only be one claimant per person, and you need to have all the receipts from the funerals and everything. I think the big fear is with fraud and, multiple people trying to claim on a person. But the great news is that they weren't prescriptive and said only spouses or only children or, only parents. So there are lots of people that had to, cover funeral expenses for people that are not their blood family. So Erica says, I know it's not perfect, but gotta say that this bill and improving COVID numbers makes me hopeful for the first time in a while. I will also say we're doing a lot better in the United States at vaccinations than Europe is, than Africa is, than South America is. And because our United States is doing a lot better at vaccinations than Canada, in comparison to other rich countries, we are doing better at vaccination rates, with the exception of the United Kingdom and Israel, which are leading in vaccination rates worldwide. It's 2/3 of adults now in the United Kingdom have gotten their first dose. So it is... Let Lily know if you need a kitten break. Otherwise, I think she's going to go the full hour without even touching the donut. Where are we at? I'm only at 5:30. I'm good. So there are a bunch of reasons to be optimistic about the United States, and that this bill is extremely important, as well as optimism is extremely important to not just the United States economy, but to the global economy. Because when the United States is throwing $6 trillion packages, when we're throwing $6 trillion around, regardless, it shifts the global economy. Remember, we are the world reserve currency. By we, I mean the US dollar is the world reserve currency. And because we are the world reserve currency, when we are making huge investments and we are expecting to target a higher interest rate at the Federal Reserve, which is also a thing that they've signaled, then it moves the global market. We are also the richest country in the world, and we have a very high trade deficit. Trade deficit sounds bad, but what it just means is that we import more than we export as far as goods. I think the really important thing to know about the way that this bill is being structured is it is important to the global economy in a way that isn't just important to the United States. And there are a lot of reasons to be optimistic now. Latitude, I would actually really like to know what Twitter has been rude about it. The funerals thing is so big. It is so big for lower income families. Abel Jack says, hold up. People pay taxes on UI? Yes, they do pay taxes on UI. And, talking about other things in this package, huge more amounts of money for Americorps programs. So just like after the last financial crisis, we poured more money into domestic service programs like Americorps Vista, which predominantly do disaster relief and do serve people in poverty. They poured a lot more money into specific grants to get people out working in their communities, and particularly communities that have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19. And one of the things that they did is, guess what? Americorps Education Awards, another thing I am deeply, deeply bitter, are taxable. And they're taxable if you are a dependent as investment income of a minor, which is mind-boggling. So Americorps Education Awards are what you get to spend as a scholarship money after you do 6 to 11 months of service in Americorps. I did 2 terms in Americorps, so I got 2 Americorps Education Awards, and mine were taxed in the year that I used it, even though I can only use it on educational expenses. They are taxed at 10% regardless of what your tax rate is. So even though I had a negative tax rate because I had the earned income credit and I only made $11,000 the year that I was in Americorps because Americorps pays poverty wages, the education award was still taxed. However, in this bill, not only did they increase stipends for Americorps as an effort to get more people from lower income backgrounds involved in Americorps, because I think one of the things that was very frustrating to me was that a lot of the people that were in the program with me were getting parental support, were getting it attracted... for example, I was the only one in my cohort who did not have a college degree, even though the program was sort of billed as this voluntary service, partially as a way to earn money for college. There were people in my cohort that had master's degrees. And so I was the only person out of 80 to 100 people in my cohort that did not have a college degree at the time that I served in Americorps. And one of the reasons is I was offered a place in a New York City program that I was very excited about the work they were doing. They were specifically doing work around access to healthy foods in lower income communities, which was what I was extremely passionate about. That's what I did my first term of service in AmeriCorps in. And I couldn't go because they effectively said this AmeriCorps stipend that you're supposed to live on amounts to it doesn't even amount to rent in New York City. So we cannot expect people that do not have the ability to live with parents, that don't have some other kind of income to be able to come and do this full year of service in AmeriCorps in New York City on that stipend. So Erica says, AmeriCorps is the best. I did AmeriCorps Vista. I mean, I have my criticisms of AmeriCorps, but it is meant to respond at times of national crisis as domestic service. And I'm very passionate because it made college affordable for me. So quick question. How are we funding the bill? Are we getting a tax increase soon? Or are we sticking it to the man? We are printing money, my friend. Which is, okay, so this is what's really important about it generally. No, we are not raising taxes anytime soon. There are a couple concerns. Everybody, whenever they see this whole we're printing all this money, is inflation going to go up? And I've talked about why inflation is less of a concern than we think. If you are someone who's very scared of inflation, you should reasonably be scared of this bill, but you should be more scared of the fact that the Fed, who controls the monetary supply, remember, the monetary supply and who spend the money are different. So the Fed does not spend this money. What the Fed does is the Fed prints and buys bonds. So the Federal Reserve controls the monetary supply. I'm not going to dive too deep into this because I'm not teaching an economics class right now. But the outlook for the U.S. economy is very good. So in many ways, we are likely to be paying this back. But this is a triple experiment, because one of the things the Fed said was that they're willing to target above their current target for inflation rate in the short term. So usually when you have low interest rates, then you also have low inflation. The issue is that with all of this spending, we could see what economists describe as the economy overheating. And overheating, even though it sounds like just a weird figure of speech, it's an actual economics term. Overheating would mean that we are seeing like what we saw right before the last financial crisis, where we have extremely high interest rates, we have high inflation, and we don't have a lot of tools in order to balance it. One of the other concerns is that we could have stagflation, which is that the economy does not recover, but we are getting inflation anyway, and that we're not able to toggle interest rates. So there's a bunch of different things at play in this, but the reason why the United States is not its own ship on this island is that we're already seeing signs of how the US dollar and the US spending is affecting the rest of the world. Remember, once again, we are the world reserve currency. So for example, the Australian Reserve already had to go and buy more bonds, because what we are seeing is that the 10-year Treasury note, which a 10-year Treasury note usually, 10-year Treasury notes will usually move opposite prices. So when an inflation goes up, the 10-year Treasury note will have a lower interest rate. So we are actually seeing 10-year Treasury notes increase, and that is because all of this spending is making us expect that we will have slightly higher inflation in the long term. And because of that, we are seeing other Federal Reserves having to buy that in order to maintain the balance that they need in their portfolios. There are also countries that have US dollar denominated debt. So Argentina is a great example. They have very high debt, and additionally, it is denominated in US dollars. So one of the concerns is that if we see inflation in US dollars, they get nervous. Will this fix the coin shortage? No. It's just numbers on a screen. So what about inflation? So what about inflation is that the Federal Reserve normally targets a 2% inflation rate, which is like essentially what we think we need to keep the economy going. And economists disagree on this in specifics, but not in general. what they have essentially said is because we've had such low inflation, which, believe it or not, we have had extremely low inflation the past couple years, is that they are willing to go a little above their 2% inflation rate in the short term to make up for past shortfalls, which is, just to be clear, like the least, it's like, that's like more information than the Fed normally gives. So the Fed, if like the Fed chairman gives like a slight eyebrow raise, like if Mr. Powell goes, then the markets can move. So it's very important to note that when the Fed says something like, we are willing to target a slightly higher interest rate in the short term because we do not expect long-term inflation statistics to move like, on a dime. Although this isn't a dime, this is $6 trillion, then what happens is the markets respond. So there is a bunch of reasons why this could be good for the overall world economy. I mentioned that trade deficit, which means that Americans, we import a lot. We move the world's markets because we are a consumer economy and we buy things. And that isn't just us buying, gadgets from China. That is, we import cars, we import manufacturing inputs, we import oil. Like, there is a lot of things we import. And so when the American economy is doing well, we drag a lot of the world along with us, and not just because of our currency being a world reserve currency. The other thing is that people will they will retreat to the US dollar if we have the expectation that the US bonds are going to continue to provide returns overall. Latitude says, if we cut childhood poverty in half, that means we could simply eliminate childhood poverty. You'd think that would be it, but it's hard with targeted stimuluses. I think there is a lot to be said for the fact that they are creating systems that in the long term could completely change childhood poverty in this country, as far as the monthly payments. And yeah, the $15 minimum wage, I'm very disappointed that it wasn't in this bill. I also thought the likelihood of it actually getting in there was extremely low. And I'm one of those people that's disappointed from it as well. It's not like it would have been overnight. But yes. I got my text message yesterday for the first jab. Need to get the car going, but I'm very happy to be getting it soon. Yay! I'm very excited. I'm delighted. So the US saying that we're going to have enough vaccine supply for all adults to become eligible on May 1st is a huge deal. Two, the OECD, which is essentially a collection of rich countries, the OECD actually, its outlooks for the American economy are, for the end of 2022, now are better than our pre-pandemic predictions. The other thing to understand is that this bill is huge, but it's only about 15% of our pre-pandemic GDP. It's not small by any token, but once again, this is what this is it's money going to lower and middle income households. And guess what lower and middle income households do when they are able? They spend the money. Higher income households hold on to it. They raise asset prices by saving it. They invest it in things that don't affect our daily lives. What lower income households do is they spend money. And so there is a lot of reasons to be very optimistic about the US economy. It's very possible the US economy is going to recover at a rate much faster than the Eurozone, which has less stimulus and unfortunately is not doing as great with vaccination rates. And it looks like we are going to avoid the overheating simply because inflation hasn't been a problem. But that is the big concern, is essentially having rising inflation over the long term, and they are doing an experiment. I know that Latitude isn't saying this, that Twitter is saying this. I'm arguing with Twitter that you are speaking on their behalf. Thank God the tariff on UK whiskey and European wine / beer got lifted. I didn't know that. I know that a bunch of tariffs have been moved around. I have not been following the tariff situation, but I would actually love to do a live stream on it because tariffs are like one of my favorite things. The thing is, tariffs move more slowly and they move markets more slowly than getting money to individuals does. So, this is a big deal. What I will say is current estimates say as long as vaccinations keep rolling out at the speed that they have been rolling out, and like with this stimulus bill, we can expect to see the unemployment rate to be below 15% by the end of this year, which about 3% is considered essentially like normal unemployment. And you might be like, why do we want any unemployment? Don't we want everyone to have a job? Besides that being extremely communist of you, we expect some unemployment. We have people that are switching jobs. We have workers who are just entering the job market, like they just got out of college or high school, out of education. So there's always going to be some structural shift to the economy. There's going to be a small amount of unemployment. But it's very likely the US economy is going to recover very quickly. I'm way more interesting than your college econ professors. I'm so glad to hear that. I want to talk more about inflation and the economy, but I realize that like long-term bond yields are not the most fascinating thing. If there wasn't the whole having to go to graduate school for 8 years thing, I would love to be an economics professor. UI question. My friend's UI ran out a few months ago. Will the extension in this bill apply to her? Can she get it restarted? So she may qualify for the pandemic unemployment assistance, but not the state unemployment. It's worth trying to restart it. But I believe if she had exhausted her 52 weeks, I do not believe this bill extended that. I wish I knew. Because essentially what happened is the first bill extended the eligibility from 26 weeks to 52 weeks. And I do not remember if they extended the maximum amount. Oh, I'm so glad to know that the dog was fighting the keyboard. Do we need a kitten break? She's very tired. I am drinking, by the way, the decaf trial of bourbon today. It's a little more campfire-y than I want. There's a kitten. She's very tired. I guess it's donut time. Okay. This is the donut. I'm very excited about it. I hope it doesn't make me drunk. Look, the most important thing you need to get out of this is that it is like gold flakes on it. There's like actual little gold flakes on it. So it's very nice. The cat is competing with the donut. And then you can see the like cream inserted in the back there. So Jameson Irish whiskey glaze, and then it has a coffee cream on the inside. I will say it doesn't look very set. It looks like a cream cheese sandwich. Ooh, it's very fluffy. I don't taste the bourbon-y. Take bets. Do you think I'm going to be drunk by the end of this donut? As someone who hasn't drunk alcohol in years. So it's very like fluffy on the outs. Like the type of donut is very fluffy. The glaze was so hard, but as soon as I touch it, it's like melting. I don't taste the gold. Is gold supposed to taste like something? I don't really smell the whiskey part. Do you want a donut tax? It's very sweet. Here, give me back what you don't eat. Oh, I really got the coffee there. I think this is Portland coffee, by the way. Pretty sure it's Stumptown. I finally got the whiskey taste. It took like quite a while. Okay, this now tastes like an Irish coffee. 100%, or as I usually call it, cowboy coffee. I feel like it's very unattractive on the inside. For how pretty it is on the outside, it's like, it just looks like a mashed up, like, cream cheese situation on the inside. Should I slow down? I can really taste the whiskey now. I bet after this live stream, I'm going to be like, I want a nap. That's what happens when I, like, drink kombucha on a hot day outside, is that, you know, kombucha has, like, 0.25% alcohol, but I'm sensitive enough at this point that, like, if it's hot outside and I drink a kombucha, I'll be like, yeah, I need a nap when I get home. The whiskey taste can often take some time like it does in beers. Yeah, I definitely taste it now, but yeah, the first couple bites, it really took a while. I would say, I feel like they should have used bourbon syrup in this, because the bourbon syrup is more, it tastes more like whiskey. I have a little bit of a headache now, and I wonder if it's the alcohol. I don't normally get it from eating the sugar this fast, so I'm gonna have some water. I know I gotta pace myself off this donut. Very important. That's how you know you do not live the days of your youth. You have a donut with a whiskey glaze and it gives you a headache. I'm gonna have some of my herbal tea that tastes like whiskey now to wash it out. It's really good though. I gotta say, this is probably one of my favorite donuts of this year. The strawberries and cream one was really good, and then the strawberry with chocolate like drizzle stripes, which is, I know that I'm saying a chocolate donut was one of my favorite of the year, which is jaw-dropping, but this one is up there. It's highly ranked. I definitely have a headache now though, which I suspect is because of the whiskey content of the donut. Does anybody have any questions about the economy? Or just, should we all just like watch the cat now? Anything about the bill, about its effect on bond yield rates? Why is the economy important? I added is important to the end, but why the economy? Here's the reason the economy is important. Because in the capitalist global ecosystem that we have to be able to have money in order to generate more money. And the whole system is based off the idea that individuals get money and then they spend money, and that gets other individuals money, and then the economy grows. And then magic. Oh, how will the bill help restaurants? So there is specific provisions for restaurants in the payroll protection loan. Essentially, they did like specific targeted relief for restaurants. They also, like in the last round, I talked about essentially the payroll protection loans, PPP, which is what everybody calls it. The PPP loans they shifted it. So essentially like smaller banks and smaller businesses with much less employees were pushed to the front of the line. So they had already done that in the last round. But additionally now, there's specific targeted relief for restaurants, in addition to the fact that previously there were a lot of requirements about how you use it, which was the reason it was called payroll protection, was that, like, you could pretty much only use it on rent, utilities, and employees. And you had to, like, hire back the same number of FTE by a certain period of time, which initially, if you remember a year ago, we all thought this was going to last like 2 weeks. So to get the PPP loans the first time, you had to hire everybody back by like July or something like that, which was, it just kind of July of last year, which is like relatively laughable now in the face of, we know, all these variants and everything that's been happening in the US. So now they did a separate round, like a separate targeted relief for restaurants of the PPP, which are 100% forgivable loans, but they didn't make it as restrictive about what it had to be used on. I will say I haven't given any of the numbers for like how much these individual things are, simply because the numbers are so large. I feel like the only thing that matters to you is the stuff that impacts your own income and whether or not your upper income limit or how much child tax credit you're getting and things like that. Overall, just know 1.7 trillion. It's not important to know like, oh, there's 286 million has been granted to Americorps Vista programs or whatever. Like, don't worry about it. So if you've been thinking about doing community service, there are, and you, particularly if you have skills where you would like to work in your community as a community health worker and your community has been disproportionately impacted by COVID, then there are a lot of opportunities that are going to open up. And Americorps isn't just for young people. It isn't only full-time. There is Americorps Senior that is particularly for people past retirement age. There are part-time Americorps positions. So if you are interested in doing service or getting involved in service, there are great benefits to being part of Americorps. If you are someone who is younger and considering going into public service full-time, Americorps is a great way to build experience in the industry. And additionally, if you do Americorps Vista, not if you do state direct, you get hiring preferences at federal agencies. So if you are interested in going into like public health or something like that, there are a lot of reasons to look into Americorps, and a lot of money is flowing in. They're still really working a lot of things out. But yeah, if you are someone that is interested in doing that, now is a time to do it. There's going to be more money for that than ever. Was rushing to finish fixing dinner and accidentally poured my dessert beer for dinner. Oh, well. I like that you have 2 beers, the dessert beer and the regular beer. I got a grant from school for taking classes during COVID-19. This was in the bill. That was in the last bill, I believe, not this bill. But they also did a little bit of expansions to the COVID... What Pell Grants. They did an expansion to Pell Grants for people that are continuing to take classes into the summer, and that was in this bill. Anyone else have any other questions? I may have exhausted my knowledge of what's in the bill, so don't ask me questions about more things in the bill at this point. Let's just watch the cat. This is really a very fancy layout we have going on. Latitude says, oh yeah, they were also like, here's $3,000 for the summer. There is a lot more money for state and local governments, which, you know, obviously was like a huge sticking point in the last round. And a lot of states have found a way to choose to get that to students as well. So depends on whether or not it was Pell or your local aid. Last, as you probably know, there are 12 states that still do not have the ACA expansion for Medicaid recipients, which is people that are below 100% of the poverty level, qualify for like totally free healthcare through their state's Medicaid program. It's all administered at the state level. 12 states in the US did not have the Medicaid expansion. And because of that, there were a lot of people that were trapped in the hole where they did not qualify for the ACA plans because their income was too low and they still couldn't get coverage because their state did not expand Medicaid. And expand Medicaid in most states previously was only people with extremely low incomes, like below $1,000, $1,000, $2,000 for a single person, or children, or pregnant people. And now, what the Democrats can't force states to do the Medicaid expansion, unfortunately, thanks to a ruling that we got in 2016. But I think that was 2016. Now it's all fading in my head. The last 10 years has been a blur, pretty much. But what they did is they sweetened the pot. So if you live in a state that does not have a Medicaid expansion, now is the time to start pushing your state legislators for Medicaid expansion because it is going to cost them less money. Essentially, the federal government picks up most of the bill for Medicaid, but the states have to put in some money. They administer it. And it is a phase out. Part of the ACA was a phase out where the states were going to have to start covering more and more of a percentage over time. But they essentially they said the federal government would pay more of the bills to those last 12 states. So it's a very big deal. What is the ACA expansion? I hear this all the time and I'm always so confused. So the Medicaid expansion is where this was part of the Affordable Care Act. So the Affordable Care Act, it created the healthcare exchanges. Obviously, they made it so pre-existing conditions couldn't disqualify you from getting health insurance. They also just made it so that people could go buy it themselves, which previously was almost impossible. And it was like super impossible if you had a pre-existing condition. So they made the exchanges, which some states went with the federal exchange, which is healthcare.gov. And then some states went with running their own. So if you live in some states, it's like Apple Health or something like that. Or if you live in Oregon, we made a website and it crashed and we had to switch back to healthcare.gov. So this is great. We did a great job. What the Medicaid expansion was that what it did was it increased eligibility. So previously Medicaid just covered very few people. So in Oregon, it covered only pregnant people and children. And you couldn't get on it otherwise, no matter what your income level was. And so, I worked with young mothers, and the young mothers would be we worked with young mothers between the ages of 18 and 24, and they would qualify for Medicaid while they were pregnant and for a couple months postpartum, and then they wouldn't qualify anymore. So a lot of them would get as much stuff done as possible during that time, which is like a bad system. Like, it essentially says that we only care about children, which, like, children are important, but children grow up to be adults in poverty. And the idea that we only care about people while they're pregnant because we care more about, like, their child inside of them and them as an incubator than we do about their health. Like, they're still taking care of their child when their child leaves their womb. Anyway, so what the Medicaid expansion did was essentially increase eligibility for anybody below 100% of the poverty level. It has been, it's a huge deal. And there were essentially mostly Republican-controlled, mostly Southern states, unfortunately, that mostly have extremely high rates of poverty and are more likely to have high rates of poverty in African-American communities because of the history of slavery. Those states, a lot of them chose not to take the expansion. Does that make sense? But yeah. I'm going to finish this donut because it's good, but I still have a tiny bit of a headache. I don't think I'm drunk, though. So there's that. She's so tired. with people with cats, how many times a day do you tell your cat that they're tired? We need to conduct some sort of survey on the forums about this. Because I inform my cat that they're tired several times a day. I also tell her she's cute, like, oh, I don't know how many times a day. Latitude says 10 times. The tired or the cute? The tired. It's like, I know that she doesn't care or know, but it's important for me to tell her. It's true. They really don't care that they're tired. Latitude's response to tired or cute was yes. I'm glad to know that as a species, we haven't evolved. Like, we've all evolved to have the same response to tired cats, which is, you are tired. Man, you can really see this burn that I gave myself when cooking like 2 weeks ago in the stream. It's great. Lovely. Okay, well, we've eaten a donut. We've talked about the economy. Hopefully people have enjoyed whatever they're enjoying. If it's snow or sunshine. I think we need to put the kitten cam back on. But how about everybody tells me what they are most looking forward to this week? And we're going to wind down. I'm impressed that I did not make this a 3-hour stream. Because I have a lot of feelings about the stimulus package, so. Look how tired she is. Oh, it's time to start a bath. It's thrilling content right here. There's a scientific study that cats have zombie-like failure to give a damn. It's true. She rarely gives a damn. Although, I feel like what was most notable about the sparkly ball movement was it felt like she really, really cared about that. And I was like, what is this expression where she cares so much about completing this activity based on her own rules? Oh yes, Latitude's midterm will be over, and they find out if they get the vaccine placebo. That is very exciting. Thank you for coming and joining, Dean, even though it is unreasonable time o'clock there. So thanks for staying up. And for folks that are not in places that celebrate daylight savings time, we return to standard time or we go to savings time. I don't know. Whatever. Everything changes tomorrow here. So the stream may be an hour different for you, depending on whether or not March 14th is your switchover date or if you switch over at all. So I know it's not really celebrate. It's like a holiday that screws up the clocks for half a year. It's definitely like a concept. So, well, thank you all for joining. Enjoy midterms. Everybody stay safe if you are getting a vaccination this week. I am very excited for you. And we're almost through. There's light at the end of the tunnel. The economic tunnel, the COVID tunnel. Let's remain optimistic. I may feel entirely this way because I went for a run in the sun today and I might have been more deficient in vitamin D than I really realized. Yes, and if you are confused about the time zone situation, I will, I always do the research right before the time change for the patrons. So if you get the patron emails about the streams, I will change the times in that email. Most of the time I get it right, but I will make sure that I get it right next week. So I will have the time in Eastern US time, Pacific US time, GMT, and Australian Eastern time. So I will have the times for those. But looking forward to a week with a new friend with whom I'll check in on day to day. Less loneliness. Yay! Loneliness has been really one of the hardest parts of this pandemic too. Although I will say in both desperately wanting social contact, I'm also nervous about the fact that there'll be disappearing excuses for why I'm not going to people's things. Like, I was reading back in my journal to, like, pre-pandemic, and I was going, man, I went to so many things in a week and I skipped so many things. And I would feel guilty about, like, oh, it's Friday night. I just want to stay at home. I don't want to go to XYZ's coworkers' friends' karaoke birthday party, even though it sounds kind of fun. And now I'm like, I don't know if the guilt's going to be more or less for skipping out on things. Although I think people will never be cranky again if you say you're skipping out because you have a cold. Because I used to be kind of like, oh, just buck it up, just come. And now it's like, stay away. We don't know what you have. Do not come to our social event and spread it everywhere. Ah, that's a perfect note to end on, Joshua. As the old country song says, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Lord, I hope it ain't a train. Okay, agreed. Everyone, please stay safe. Hydrate this week and pet a cat, and don't forget to change your clocks if you live in somewhere that does daylight savings time. I will see you all same time, same place. Well, same time, depending on where you live, next week. Bye.